Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we have Ben Fadden of Talking Friars on. And unfortunately, not really a positive episode today. We're going to be talking about Will Myers and Trent Grisham and the heavy amount of struggles that they started out this first week. It's only 1 week of baseball, but it's been very, very rough. The outfield was a major question mark coming into the year. However, the bigger question mark was in left field, and Jurickson Profar is currently playing out of his mind. He had an amazing defensive play Monday night, and he's been hitting like a man on a mission. But in left or in right and center field, there's been about no production. So we're going to get into that today, talk about both Will Myers and Trent Grisham, their struggles, if we think they can break out. But Ben, you're the guest today. You wanna get your thoughts out on Will Myers and Trent Grisham first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Matt. So just first off, with Trent, let's start with Trent. Yeah. We were talking before we started. He's someone that we feel like he has that higher ceiling than Will, right? And at least, this year, if we're basing off of this year. And there were all those extension talks and how Grish didn't want that extension, thought he would earn more money and kind of build off that 2020 season, his first season here. But then that obviously didn't happen in 2021. He was hurt a little bit, and then he got benched, I believe, at one point, moved down in the lineup. I don't think he liked Jace. So it seemed like going into this year, I was a little more optimistic about him because of the new manager, new coaching staff. Just he'd maybe get, that swagger back more. But it's early in the season, so I don't want to make these, big judgments, but it's not off to a smooth start for him and Will. Will, I'd say I'm more concerned with him just because he seems more lost at the plate than Trent does right now. Both guys, I mean, they're I think 9 for 56 right now with 20 strikeouts. So yeah, not great at all. Profar, I mean, going into the year, right, we all were thinking we need a left field power bat, and we probably will, right? This is just early season Profar, but right now it seems like center and right were the positions we should have been worrying about, not left. But again, it's early in the season.
Yeah, man. Definitely still really early in the season. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to worry about Will Myers just because Will Myers. This has kind of been Will Myers' MO his whole entire career. We know what we're gonna get out of Will Myers. Matt's brought it up multiple times. It's gonna be a 750 OPS. Around a 240, 250 batting average, a couple bombs here and there, but you're not gonna get anything special out of Will Myers. Now, of course, right now it looks a lot worse than it usually does. He got his strikeout percentage down from 44% to 37%. Yeah, that's not what he's normally at. Normally he's like high 20s, low 30s, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think he'll sustain this rate of striking out. However, he's always struck out a lot. We know that to expect that from him. He's going to play decent right field, below average right field, I guess is what you can say. I think he'd be a better left fielder. I think Matt, Chase, and I both all agree that he would be a better left fielder, defensively at least. But I mean, my guy Jurickson out this making plays at the warning track, hitting for power, hitting for average, doing it all right now. And it's really fun to see because this is like the last guy we expected to do that. The guy we kind of expected to be at least decent was Will Myers because throughout his whole career, he's been put in these bad situations where, he has a crappy manager. He's getting switched all these positions. He's not batting in a consistent spot in the lineup. And then this year, they keep putting him in right field. They keep giving him the benefit of the doubt after years of sustained unsuccess. They keep throwing him out there. You essentially have positional security, and we're getting the same Will Myers we've gotten in the years where he was basically put in a position to fail. He's put in a position to succeed, and he's still failing. Now, it's only 7 games, so there's still a lot of time left. But, I mean, it's very concerning nonetheless. I want to talk about Trent Grisham, of course. I'm looking at his advanced batting stats, and, I mean, 28% strikeout percentage, 7% walk percentage, 27% hard hit percentage, which is significantly lower than what he's normally done. I mean, there's nothing really to be excited about so far for Trent Grisham, other than he's going to always provide you, a Gold Glove type center field. But But at the plate, I think he's going to find it. I think he's going to go on one of those hot streaks soon, hopefully. And those are the kind of streaks that are going to save his season if he's able to go on them. But we've said it multiple times. We don't know what to expect from Trent Grisham, because a lot of people thought he was going to be some sort of bounce back, when in reality it would be a breakout, because 2020 was too short of a season to consider that a breakout. And then he comes out in 2021 and he flops. So in reality, it would kind of be like a re-breakout. And we're not getting that so far. Only 7 games in. I fully expect him to have a good season. I mean, a lot of you guys were talking about how you think he'll be our breakout candidate, or I guess bounce back for, you guys that were saying that. And I was fully on board. I'm still fully on board. I'm not going to give up on that. But so far, absolutely need more production out of our outfielders that, quite frankly, aren't jerks in Profar. You need more out of Matt Beatty when he's able to get his at-bats. You need more out of Trent Grisham at the plate, and you need more out of Will Myers in general. So hopefully we get that soon.
Yeah, I'm there with you. And I'll start with Trent Grisham because I feel like he's a little bit more interesting of a case than Will Myers. Just because, like you said, Trent Grisham is more of a breakout candidate opposed to a guy that's going to have a rebound year. 2021 wasn't that great, but it was better than his 2019 season. And 2020 was 60 games. And we're talking about a guy that's really, really up and down. That's the inconsistency in his game, is that he will be super hot and then he will just be super cold. Yeah, sounds like Will Myers as well. But we see the 60 game. He looks pretty good in the 60 game, puts up good numbers. But it's just tough when we're looking at Trent Grisham as a bounce back guy, because he had relatively the exact same year in 2021 as he did in 2019. Like, I'll read this out to you guys. It's 231 batting average, 2021, 242. On base, 328 in 2019, 327 in 2021, within, a percent of a percent. OPS, 738, 2021, 740. Like, these numbers are so close. So to me, it's like he put together 2 seasons that were relatively the same. Now, granted, in 2019, he didn't play the whole year. He wasn't like starting the entire season. So last year was his first full season. I still think he's a guy that can break out, but I don't think it's like a rebound year. But the way that he started has been really, really bad. And like I said, it's a week, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, the big thing I'll say is, and Ben, you brought this up, that you feel like Will Myers looks a lot more lost at the plate. I totally agree. I mean, he's going up there. He's striking out on 3 pitches. He's letting one go right down the pipe, and then he's swinging at one of the dirt on the 3rd strike. It's like, dude, it looks lost. So right now, Will Myers is 2nd in the league in strikeouts, and Trent Grisham is 7th. So they're both top 10 in the league in strikeouts. So what everyone's seeing, what everyone feels like, oh, these guys look awful, like they've played awful. So I think we're all seeing what's happening on the field. But with Will Myers, I think he's less of, I would say, a wild card than Trent Grisham. Also, Trent Grisham has more upside as well, but Will Myers looks terrible right now. I've seen many months of Will Myers hitting like this for a full month, and then he turns it around. Overall, this is where I expect Will Myers to be, because in basically every single season since 2016, or no, honestly, every single season since his rookie year that he's played the full amount of time, he's been a OPS plus guy of 110 to 115. He has about a 770 OPS, and he hits 250, and he gets on base 330 times. And if he's healthy, he strikes out 170 times in a year. He's basically there over the course of a season every single time. He is not a perfect player. He's an okay fielder, and he's pretty average. The problem with Will Myers is that he makes $20 million. The problem isn't necessarily the player in this case, though the Padres do need more impact bats. I'm not saying that's not, but it's not like he's like a disaster of a player. It's not like he's putting up negative WAR. He's just a guy that you would want to replace, but you can't because he makes too much money. And his contract's going to be done this year. I don't expect him to be back in a Padres uniform. I feel like if he didn't make so much money in his time in the Padres, he'd be more fondly remembered than he's going to be, because I don't think anyone really has been digging Will Myers lately. But I expect him to bounce back. It's probably going to take a while. He looked pretty awful in spring too. So I don't think he's going to be good early on. And that really sucks, because this is when we needed Will Myers to get super hot, when Fernando's not in the lineup. So it's definitely a big letdown. I'm not trying to undersell that it's been awful. But I do think he's going to bounce back and have his typical numbers. Where Trent Grisham, I hope he is, but we just haven't seen enough. We haven't seen a large enough sample size, I believe. But he has. It seemed like he has been working on, pushing the ball to the opposite field. That's like the whole thing that he was working on throughout spring training. He's dropped a couple nice bunts down, which it's a plus, but it's definitely a work in progress with Trent Grisham. But Ben, anything else you want to add? And then Isaac, you can wrap it up for us.
Yeah, what I would add to that is, with Will, when we go back to talking about how he's lost, even when he is like making contact and he's having these hits, like they're like bloop hits. Like it was either today or yesterday, it was a bloop hit down the right field line. Like it's not like he's like squaring up balls either. So it's not like he's striking out, but when he is making contact, he's hitting liners. Like that's not what's happening. With Grisham, he's at least attacking, swinging early in counts. Maybe that's part of the problem, but he's at least swinging, he's aggressive there in the box. That doesn't really seem like that's the case for Will. There was one pitch earlier today in the series finale with the Giants where, Mudd was even saying it on the broadcast, like, that's the pitch you got to hit there. It was just a hanger right down the pipe, and he just watched it. Like, it just seems like he's lost. And, you can count to – I mean, you're talking about, Matt, where he could bounce back, right, and he's going to go back to what he usually is. But when he's lost like this, it's hard to believe that, because when is he not going to not be lost? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to envision that right now.
Absolutely, because I mean, let's be real. I said it earlier. For the most part, it feels like he's kind of always lost in a way. So when he's on those cold streaks, it really feels like he's like, damn, this guy makes so much money for what, right? And I mean, you can justify it. The guy came off a 3.5 WAR season when he was signed to this contract. Now the bigger problem was that they deferred the money. And I told Matt, I'm assuming that when they deferred the money, they had the assumption Will was still going to be a good player and that all of their prospects were going to pan out on some cheap contracts to go get more good players. But it didn't work out that way. 2020 was his last good year where he was on pace for about a 4 WAR. And I'm looking at his numbers right now. On average, he has around a 45% hard hit percentage. Right now, it is 33%. Really low. Or really low compared to his past years. Ground ball percentage, 53%, 10% higher than average. Let's see what else I got. Obviously, I mentioned his absurd strikeout percentage. Now, going back to Trent Grisham, Matt, you brought up how he's working on hitting oppo more. His hitting up the middle, 62%, oppo 22%. So he's pulling the ball the least amount at 16%. And that was what he was working on during spring training. I remember hearing a lot about that he was trying to hit the ball the other way and up the middle a lot more. So kind of trying to change his approach. And maybe we'll see that pan out throughout the season, because quite frankly, when you do become a gap-to-gap hitter, you do become a lot more well-rounded hitter, kind of like Jake Cronenworth. So I think that's going to pan out as time goes. But we just got to stay hopeful, because this is our outfield probably up until the deadline. Hopefully Will finds it and goes on at minimum like a 1 or 2 week streak where it's just the Will Myers that can carry a team. Because I mean, quite frankly, with Fernando, we need someone that's going to do it, not just Profar. Because if the lineup was at least somewhat average right now, we probably would have won at least one of these past 2 games against the Giants. But the problem was that Profar and Hosmer are the only ones that are consistently producing, and the rest of the lineup, I mean, Cronenworth and Machado are going to be amazing. That's a given. But the rest of the lineup has been so lackluster that even those two carrying the lineup isn't working. And outside of Darvish, the pitching has been great. I really feel like we should have won this past game against the Giants. So hopefully these two figure it out, man, because if not, this lineup is going to look the way it did up until Tatis comes back.
Isn't that what we expected, though? Like, I get the Arizona series, that was great and all. Like they scored 10 runs that Sunday game, and some people were overreacting, some people weren't. And then they came back to earth, it seems like, with this series. Even the first game of the series that they won, I mean, some of the runs, there were walks. Profar had a nubber to the pitcher that he bobbled. I mean, that he beat out. So it's not like they were dominating in that game either offensively. And so it's kind of, it's just confirmation bias a little bit here. Just the first less than a week of the season here, what was going to be our strong point? The pitching. That's what it seemed like, the rotation, especially after getting Manaea. What was going to be our weak point without Tatis? The offense. And what's the weak point right now? The offense.
I mean, absolutely. And that was something that we brought up too. Now we came out, we said, look, we think this pitching staff can be a top 5 pitching staff. And then the next day we said, hey, we think this lineup is awful. So it's definitely, I mean, that's how we've kind of expected it to play out. And that's what it's looked like early on. And even in that Sunday game, at one point when the Padres had 8 runs, they only had 8 runs on 4 hits. It wasn't like it was, they put up 15 hits and had 11 runs. Like, no, it wasn't like that. And most of those runs came on a grand slam, and it was a hot inning where they got it through. They just ran to the lineup really quickly. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a really tough spot. One thing that could kind of solve the outfield, now the problem is this dude's struggling too, is if CJ Abrams was eventually moving to the outfield. Now, he's a rookie. He had barely any at-bats. I definitely think that he could benefit from getting consistent at-bats as ha-seong could as well. Maybe that's something that happens, but I don't think we're going to see CJ Abrams in the outfield for a while. So, unfortunately, we are likely stuck with these 3 guys currently in the outfield. Luckily, Jurickson Profar is balling out. Hopefully, Trent Grisham and Will Myers are able to turn around. But that is going to do it for today's episode. So, thank you guys for listening. Ben, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.